3, 2, 1, you're on air.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the College Rugby Wrap Up live coverage of the 2022 MLR Collegiate Draft. We got the entire College Rugby Wrap Up crew here with you tonight. My name is Zach Lanning, Josh Ressio, Colby Marshall with us as always, and a special guest with us tonight for our continuing coverage of the MLR Draft. We'll be doing the entire first round. As I like to call him, the most accurate draft pundit in the nation, Rugby Morning's John Fitzpatrick.
Zach, Colby, Josh, thank you so much for inviting me on. I'm here to have a lot of fun. I think we've got some great picks. Our mocks have been really good. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I'm sure the guys are excited. We're a little behind our production schedule here. This is our first live experience as we go here, but we like it. We're having fun. It's good energy. So we'll dive right in, guys. And I think the burning question on all of our minds as we head into the draft coverage that starts at 7 o'clock here, we're going to be monitoring as we go forward, allowing us to kind of track the picks, and we'll give you live reaction as those come in from the broadcast on Fox Sports 2. If you want to follow along with that as well. But the burning question on all of our minds is, what the heck is NOLA doing and why trade up? And I think, Josh, you had a very interesting theory that we can kick off here to kind of get us going. Josh, why do you think NOLA made this move?
I do. I mean, you know, if NOLA is going to move up to 2, I think everyone, you know, we've been talking about it for a while now that Sam Gala is probably going to be that number 1 pick. If I'm NOLA and I'm making that trade, the only theory that I'm really kind of running with is that they don't think Dallas is going to be taking Sam Gala. I mean, Sam is a great athlete, someone I think that, you know, we all see going 1. Maybe they know something we don't. I mean, I don't know what you guys think. Maybe you guys think something different, but that's my theory, is that they think Sam Gala is going to slip to number 2 for him.
Colby, do you agree with Josh's theory there?
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with Josh's theory. You know, I'd like to think that DC might you know, have a guy in mind that they want to kind of like snag from NOLA. It is NOLA getting the 2nd pick and DC getting the 3rd, right? Just to clarify.
That's correct.
It is.
Yeah. So I think, you know, I think DC I think they know that a player that they like are going to be at the number 3 slot. And I think it's more about them getting their guy than it is about NOLA going after Sam Gala.
John, you also mocked Sam Gala to number 1 here in your mock, as did the rest of us. Was that an easy pick for you? And can you give me a couple names that you think NOLA or the Dallas, at the first overall pick might take instead of Sam Gala?
Sure. Yeah, I think Sam was pretty easy for me. Actually, hold on, guys. I got a call coming in. Santiago Sodini, the Dallas GM. Yep. Sam's going number 1. There you go, guys. Sam's going number 1. Put it.
You heard it here first. That's a Fitzpatrick bomb, a Fitz bomb.
Yeah. Fitz bomb right there. Sorry, guys, to spoil
John,
it for everyone.
John, really quick, how many picks are you going to get right from your mock draft tonight?
I hope more than 1, because Colby only got 1 right last year. Thank you, Calvin Gentry. First pick in the 3rd round. So I'm going to go with more than 1, so 2. It's either 2 or 0. So, yeah.
I think we'll get a few as well, guys. I'm happy with how our drafts came out. Just to kind of get through, do we think there is anybody else besides Sam Gala that can go number 1? Even though we have it confirmed here, I don't see anybody like that for me. And I think so that we're probably pretty consensus on that. Who else is your locked-in pick in this draft? Who do you feel the most confident about outside of Sam Gala, guys? Josh, we can start with you on this one. Who's your most confident? I got this pick right. I don't care what anybody else says. This player's going to this team here in the first round.
I'm sticking a little bit lower in the draft with Ty Carlson going to ATL. Again, I think they're going to pick a guy from life with their first pick. I mean, you just get so much opportunity to take a look at these players. I'm willing to lock that one in. You know, they maybe are going to do it with their 2nd pick. They get to pick 2 times in a row. But I think Ty Carlson to ATL is going to be pretty much a lock.
Colby, how about you?
Personally, I think Koikoi Nelligan out of Army is going to be a lock. He's somebody that, like Sam Gala, is, I think, ready for the MLR as far as passing the physical test. So I really like Koikoi, and I think he's going to definitely go at some point early in the first round.
John, who's your guaranteed locked and loaded pick here in the first round outside of Sam Gala?
I love Colby's pick about Koi with DC. I think my locked and loaded pick is Utah at 4. They need a hooker as well. They just traded a guy they had for maybe like 18 hours. I think it's going to be Jack Manzo. I know that's crazy. I know no Cal players have been drafted yet. We might have 2 going in the first 4 picks. Lock it in. I haven't gotten the call yet from Brandon Sparks, but that one, I'm locking in.
Phone will be buzzing all night. I think I faded Koi way too much in mine. I have him going way down to Seattle, actually, with the 12th pick, which would be a huge steal, again, for Seattle. As I said in the podcast, a kind of another steal, a Tavite Lopetti-esque steal, as he fell to 3 for them last year in that draft and has been a huge impact player for them. So if they could get Koi late in this draft, that would be amazing. For me, I think Gabe Kettering is a lock as prop out of Lindenwood, going in at 2nd overall pick to NOLA. I think that's why they ultimately traded up. I think we're going to see, and Josh last, because I think this is the year of the prop. I think we might even see like 2 or 3 props go in this first round. It could just be chaos, something we've never seen before. But as we come onto the 7 o'clock hour here, you're going to notice that the draft coverage has begun on Fox Sports 2, so we're going to be monitoring that as well. We'll see those picks coming in. But guys, any trends that you've noticed in previous drafts that you think might hold true in this draft, or do you see this draft kind of going in a completely different direction now that GMs have a couple drafts under their belt? Josh, we can start with you on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned this in the podcast that we posted earlier this week. A different trend is the impact of the Collegiate Rugby Shield. I think that is going to have a huge impact on how much GMs were able to kind of scout specific players that they wanted. I think that event alone, just because it put these guys in a new situation, they had to play with some guys they were not familiar with, pick up a new system really quickly. That one event, I think, is going to have a huge impact on the draft. And I see a lot of people that shined in that event being picked up early by some teams.
So interesting to note as well, something that Matt McCarthy, who shout out to Matt McCarthy for letting us use his channels here, a College Rugby Wrap Up, obviously part of the Rugby Wrap Up network. Matt couldn't unfortunately join us this evening, but is here in spirit. I'm sure we'll get his take on this draft as well. But Matt noted that he's heard talk around the league that this draft is going to be very unique and very different because this class of players is the class that has missed the most college prep time or college play time due to COVID-19. So that affects, I think, a lot of the way that a lot of GMs see these players. The game film is limited in some ways as well. And I think that's why you also saw a couple of the Cal guys in Jack Manzo and Sam Gala take that extra 5th year before coming out. But you combine that with what Josh is talking about, there have been more opportunities than ever for GMs to see college players outside of the college setting, to see them with higher levels of competition as opposed to playing their regular conference schedules. Maybe some of the teams aren't as strong. So, Colby, do you think that is kind of a counterbalancing effect, or do you still see this as being a very difficult year for MLR GMs to kind of predict?
Yeah, you definitely wonder if that's going to maybe swing the pendulum a little bit towards one position group when we're talking about forwards and backs, because we've seen the past 2 years that forwards and backs have gone at the same rate pretty much in each draft. We've seen the same amount of backs and forwards get drafted in the first draft in 2020. 2021, I think there was one more forward drafted than back player. And, we've talked about the guys that have missed time because of COVID. Maybe this will maybe be an indication that teams are going to focus on getting those guys that are ready physically to play at the next level, like the Sam Gallas, like the Koi Nelligan. So maybe we expect to see more forwards taken in this draft.
John, talk to me a little bit about your process as well, prepping these mocks. This is the second year you've done it, a full 3-round mock, which I could not believe. We did our first round mocks this year, and that was a lot of prep for me. There are like 170 prospects that MLR sends out in their list. What do you look for in guys when you're kind of slotting them to different teams? How do you scout these guys, and how do you see that being difficult for maybe an MLR GM as well, looking at these players?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun watching all the different players' highlight tapes, and it's so great that they were able to post them on YouTube. And I heard a lot of bad music. I heard a lot of good music. I saw a lot of quick runs, big hits, everything you would expect to see in a highlight reel. And again, as a very amateur scout here, there was a couple of things, right? Like, you can't teach size and speed, right? If you got a big body and a big frame, you got a guy like Trent Rogers, and I agree with you, Zach, I think this is the year of the prop. I mean, that dude was moving better than I can move, and I'm much smaller than him by like almost 200 pounds, right? So like you can't teach size, speed. A guy like Nate Curtis, who's a burner, he's high on my list. He followed me on Twitter, so I got to shout him out. Nate, I hope you're listening. I got him, I think, going in the second round. But then there's other guys who are, who are like glue guys, who are the captains of their team, or maybe the president, like all those little intangible stuff. So like bring a club together. I think that's important. And if they got desire and the grit and they really want to get drafted, I think there's something to that. But there was something actually in last night's episode of the Rugby Wrap Up. When Matt was interviewing Brandon Sparks, he kept talking about the local marketing strategy, or the local tie, right? Like scouting guys in their own backyard, and then weaving in that narrative of like, hey, this is a reason why you should follow this player because they grew up in the community or they went to college around here. So, from the business standpoint, there's a much easier story to tell. So does that mean Utah is going to pick up a couple of guys from the area? Possibly. Be curious to see who that is. But so those are a couple of the trends that I've been seeing leading up into this year's draft.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that, John. I mean, we've seen some of the guys we mocked in our drafts were specifically due to home ties. Josh and I both had Jack Manzo going to Rugby New York at the end because he's a guy from Queens and he's local, and that is kind of a huge deal. These guys are not all ready to make an impact right away. You see in the NFL, that wasn't always the case. The way the NFL draft is set up, guys expected to come in and from the first round pick and kind of contribute to a team right away. You have to remember the NFL had, that was not always the case. The guys were sitting for years. Look at someone like Aaron Rodgers. There were coaches that were very hesitant to play even first-year NFL players who were drafted around their guys. That's only a recent development. They've gotten strong enough because the college programs have developed to such a level where they're almost pro-like in their approach to the game. So you're seeing that start out here with MLR, a rather a fledgling league here. The college program is catching up, they're starting to catch up. But a lot of these guys that are coming out need some time to marinate in these programs. And so you have to look at those other factors like, can this player be an asset for my team off the pitch as well? So that you have to get people in the seats, you have to get eyeballs on the games, which is part of the business. And so we don't always have to think about that. We don't always talk about that. But the draft is here for another purpose outside of getting the best college talent. It's also for these teams to kind of replenish their stock with young, exciting new players. So I think you're absolutely right on that. Guys, any other trends, Colby? You see anything this draft that you're keeping an eye on? Any players going or any specific positions going that you want to make sure we look out for as we go forward here?
The year of the prop, Zach. It might just be the year of the prop. I mean, we saw 3, I think, props go in last year's draft. I think we're going to see a ton more. Like I said before, I think that teams are going to focus more on the guys that are ready to play at that next level physically. And I'm really excited.
I will say, just also, I'm going to take a dig here at the broadcast. They've already cut to commercial. We're no breaks here. We are all gas, no breaks for a full hour on this show. So we already have one up on the MLR draft broadcast here. So, Josh, what are you looking for out of these picks? What kind of trends do you want to see? What do you think we'll take away from this draft when all is said and done?
Can I just mention one guy again? I know we talked about him in the podcast, but I just have to bring him up again. I want to see where Brandon Carnes from Iowa State ends up going. I mean, we talked about it in the podcast. This guy is the most explosive prop I've ever seen. I mean, they were putting him out in center just so that he could just run the ball and barrel over some of the smaller guys. I mean,
what is he, like 6'7"? Sorry.
No, he's not 6'7", but he's a tank. I mean, the guy's
tall. He's pretty tall. He's like 6'4", 6'5", right?
Tall enough. I mean, the man's running. It looks like he's running a 4.40 out there. I mean, Zach, year of the prop. If it is the year of the prop, and everyone needs to be looking at Brandon Carnes because that guy is a freak athlete and ready to make an impact.
That is, for me, one of the biggest. That could be one of the biggest surprises here is Carnes, and if he's not like the on our podcast at some point going forward, the amount that we have talked him up going forward, just the athlete to ever grace the field. But you're absolutely right. He's insanely dynamic, and it would be a great asset. And as John mentioned earlier, you can't teach that stuff. You can teach scrummaging, you can teach some of that going forward, but you can't teach the athleticism that Brandon Carnes shows there. But guys, I want to talk about another really dynamic athlete here. I want to talk about another guy that I think all of us have shown some disrespect to. I think we all may be apologizing profusely after this draft is over. Milan Van Wyck does not feature in any of our mock drafts, and he is one of the best athletes that I have ever seen on the pitch. What gives, guys? Colby, why have we not shown Milan Van Wyck any love here at all?
To be fair, I did show him some love in my second round projection. I think he's somebody that is slept on definitely by a lot of people making these mock drafts and will go in the second round. But just a dynamic player at the scrum half position, the position that he's listed at. But he's somebody that I think will line up at multiple positions in the back line for an MLR team that at least has the potential to do that. So I'm really excited to see what his rugby career, what his future in the sport holds.
Yeah, Milan Van Wyck out of New Mexico Tech. Obviously, John, I don't think I saw him anywhere in your mock draft in 3 full rounds. Do you think he's going undrafted?
No, I just think there's a couple of guys that, as the commissioner walks out now, that's probably the one guy I feel
let's
really
pause
bad
that
about
thought as we see here the first
Yeah.
pick in the 2022 draft. I love this. This stage is great compared to last year. I think they really stepped up their game for the presentation of the pick here. But this is huge.
A nice backdrop going.
Sam Gala, number 1. We got one, guys. We all got
There
one.
we go.
Congrats, guys.
We're not
Congrats, Cal.
going over this year, everybody. We did it.
You know what we're talking about.
That
If I may just talk, a little bit about Sam Gala. I mean, talk about leading just one of the best college rugby programs we've seen in this country. I mean, been around for so long, a system that just is dominating the competition right now. To be a leader on that team, to work under Clark, I mean, this captain is ready to make an impact at the MLR level. Super excited for Dallas to pick him up. I think it's a really quality pick, and you could not talk to someone that had a bad thing to say about Sam Gala. So for me, huge. I think a great pickup by Dallas.
Yeah, Josh, I definitely agree. Something we've seen Dallas in previous years, they've had that number 1 pick in every draft so far. You saw them take Connor Mooneyham, who's actually sitting in this broadcast here as well, ended up with the Austin Gilgronis for that athleticism. Then they went and shocked everyone last year by taking Eric Naposki out of UCLA over Emmanuel Albert from Lindenwood, who was a similar player to Sam Gala here and what he brought to the table. I think everyone was a little thrown off by that. But Naposki ended up being a great pick for them, contributed a lot last season in a season that didn't have a lot of highs for Dallas. He was definitely one of the shining moments for them. And now to see them here take Gala, take that powerhouse, that engine in the middle of your scrum, that leader on and off the pitch, who I think is the most pro-ready prospect. John, this is a good pick for Dallas, no?
It's a great pick for me too, because I got one. I'm 1 for 1 now. It's a great pick for everyone else. But yeah, I mean, like again, you hit it on the head. Dallas, the last 3 drafts, they've picked well. The last 2 drafts, both players were MLL starters. There's no reason why Sam isn't going to be an MLL starter. Great pick, and it's interesting, right? I think there's probably some pride in there, right? Being the number 1 overall pick, and there's probably some heightened expectations for him. And Dallas has got some draft picks here, stockpile 3. They went 0-16 last year, as we all know. But this could be an exciting year for them as they build a young nucleus, and now you've got Sam there to kind of, as you said, run things in the engine room. Things should be looking up for Dallas, and they should be proud of this first pick.
Yeah, Gala's one of those guys you're not going to see a lot of, I feel like, right away. Like, he's not going to make those splash plays, but he's somebody who's going to contribute, do the little things well for them, which I think is very impressive. Colby, how does it feel that it's not a back going first overall? Do you take that personally? Are you aggrieved now that we finally had a forward get some recognition by going 1 overall?
I do take it a little personally, I guess, naturally being the great back that I was for the Iona College Gales. But university
there's the first
now,
mention in Iona. Who had the under 15 minutes? You just made it. So
who are the is a university now, but it goes back to what I was saying before. More forwards, I think, are going to be taken in this draft. And congrats to Sam Gala. Dallas got a heck of a player. And guys, we're still so early in the game. It's 2022. Dallas has a lot of young talent that I think are going to have the opportunity to grow together over the next 3, 5, 7 years. So it's really exciting times to be a Jackal fan.
Yeah, I don't think last year was representative at all of what they're doing. They're one of those teams that has really invested heavily in domestic talent, and they've even scooped up a couple of draft picks from previous years from other franchises, and they've blossomed there. So I think we'll definitely see big things from them going forward. I will say, if you're following along in the broadcast, I got to get me one of those Cal polos that Sam Gala's rocking in the interview. And I will say that the rugby media is a very transactional economy. So if you want to get mentioned on this show, send us a polo from Cal, and I will talk about you, whatever you want me to say here. So, so Josh, this kind of throws your NOLA theory right out the window. Dallas did not let Sam Gala slip through their fingers, as you may have theorized. What do we think NOLA's going to do here now with the second overall pick with the best player off the board?
It really does, and it's fascinating to me. If everybody thought that Sam Gala was going to go number one, why did you have to move up to number two? It makes me start to look at Colby and John and start to think, are they right about something about Koi Koi? I mean, the trade happened right after we understood that Koi Koi Nelligan has gotten approval to defer his service academy service and he can play in the MLR. Is that a situation where NOLA was like, hey, here's a deal. We want to make sure that we get this guy. We may be seeing in a second that Colby and John were onto something. I don't know, Colby, you want to add anything to that one?
Yeah, obviously Koi Koi, somebody that played at Army last year, that's on the East Coast. Ogler DC might want to get some of that homegrown talent going, get Koi Koi from the East Coast. So I think NOLA was kind of onto that, and that's why they moved up, because they knew that he was the guy that they wanted to pick.
Josh, I love being the conspiracy theorist of the broadcast here of the podcast, but we're going to see right now what NOLA's strategy ended up being. The commissioner out here to announce pick number 2 for the NOLA Gold. Drafted very well, have a lot of picks. Oh, wow.
Annie Villani.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Our first absolute shocker of the day. Sebastiano Villani, scrum half out of St. Bonaventure, goes number 2 overall to the NOLA Gold. Guys, I
love that.
I'm
love
stunned.
that.
Colby, do you like Sebastian Villani the most out of all of us, I think? What are your thoughts seeing this pick right now?
Well, he's a tremendous player, 1, and 2, he's going to a team that, yes, they have an established scrum half in Damian Stevens, but that's a great guy to learn from for Sebastiano Villani. And I think that's a trend that we'll see in this draft. We'll see a lot of teams who have established talent at certain positions go after that same position in the draft so that they can hone in on younger talent with the help of their experienced veterans that are already dominating those positions. So I love this pick by the NOLA Gold. I think that, when you look at what Rugby United did with the scrum half rotation of Andy Ellis and Connor Buckley and Connor McManus, that's something that they can now do with Villani and Damian Stevens.
I think Mike Petrie loves that pick as well, who's on the broadcast, also former USA Eagle scrum half extraordinaire. John, where did you have Villani in your mock, and are you shocked by this pick as are the rest of us?
Yeah, I definitely was shocked by that. I had Sebastiano going in the 3rd round to New York, of all places, based off what Colby was saying, a good place to potentially go and see what New York did with Andy Ellis going back to New Zealand. I did have Sebastiano rated really high. I had him as the 2nd best scrum half, but to go 2nd overall, that's awesome. I mean, already, like you said, this is a shock, and this is fantastic. Great player. Did not see him going
Tremendous
2nd
player.
overall.
Yeah. I don't think I'm shocked by the talent level. Sebastiano Villani is someone that we've loved watching all year in the NCR All-Star game and everything like that. And Josh, something that you've mentioned as well, the impact of the Collegiate Shield. I believe he was a standout at the Shield, or was it a different he definitely made an impact at the Collegiate Shield tournament, as he has kind of anywhere he's played. So do you think this is an instance, again, of what you were talking about, that Shield being a very effective showcase for players?
It very much could be. I mean, the question that I have here is, you have NOLA Gold, right? They have 3 picks in this first round. I mean, we're not going to be perfect in our mock drafts as we learned last year.
We're already all done, so
we're already ruined. The only Colby had him going to ATL later in the draft, in his. But I think that it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. Why did NOLA think they needed to take him here? He's a quality athlete, totally deserving of the number 2 pick. Obviously, but it's going to be really interesting to see who NOLA takes for their other 2 picks that they have in this first round, and were they players that they felt like they needed to take now so that DC, Utah, and Toronto weren't going to pick Sebastiano.
I am my brain, the wheels are turning, guys, because I did not foresee this strategy at all. I would have thought they could have waited on Villani for a while, even. As we've talked about in our previous podcast episodes, scrum halves are not a position that is generally targeted in these drafts by MLR teams because it's a position that takes a little while for guys to get that pro-ready sense, for guys to really, take that leap from college to the pro game. It's almost a completely different environment when you're playing the scrum half, when you're playing 9. We saw San Diego try it with Patrick Madden, who was his natural position was fly half. They drafted him that first year. He had to step in and scrum half due to injuries, and you could tell that he was a step behind to every ruck, and it impacted their offensive flow. That's such a crucial position for teams. They must have felt that Sebastiano Villani was somebody who was almost ready to take that step. He does have the intangibles. I think he has that motor. He loves the sport. So somebody definitely easy to coach. And so somebody who I think, they'll get in that building and let marinate for a little bit. So guys, I mean, I'm thinking here too, Old Glory probably wouldn't have taken a scrum half because they're all set there with Danny Tusitala. Utah had 3 or 4 scrum halves in their building last year. So I really am shocked by this. Toronto probably wouldn't have taken Villani. So they probably could have waited, but we'll see. We'll see what their strategy is going forward. What do we think DC does here now that they are going to be on the clock here at number 3, and they still have a pretty solid selection of players that we like? Colby, what do you think DC does here?
I think they go Quickway. They have the opportunity to take that homegrown East Coast talent now. Quickway Nelligan's a guy coming off of a national championship with Army. Great player, has been a part of their 15th and 7th club, so we'll see.
They're moving quick here now. We're rapid fire. We're going to find out right away what DC is going to do. Killebrew is going to announce it here. I love the logo behind him. That screen is amazing. We should have got that for our broadcast. Wow, another shocker. Calixto Martinez of the University of British Columbia, our first prop. So I'm still kind of right with the year of the prop here. But somebody I don't think any of us had on our radars. And I think, guys, we may have talked about this. We had a bit of a blind spot for Canadian players in this draft, players from Canadian colleges and universities. But, John, do you feel that? Do you feel sometimes it's difficult for us to get a sense of the Canadian talent? And what is your reaction to this pick here for DC?
Yeah, for sure. I think you're absolutely right. I think there was a little bit, from my research and stuff, a little bit of a blinder. And kudos to Brian Ray at America Rugby News. He mentioned Martinez as a player, as one of the top Canadian prospects. Surprised that DC took him here. I was on board with what Colby was saying about the local tie. I thought Koi was going to go here, or at least had a good shot at going here. So maybe it still supports my theory that Hooker is going to go to Utah in the next pick. But Martinez, everything that I've read about him, great player, big physical player, probably one of the best Canadian prospects this year. So, but yeah, again, I think a shocker, right, for DC to take a Canadian prospect here. I'm surprised by that.
Especially with an American-born prop. I'm going to keep saying Gabe Kettering's name on the board here. I thought was fantastic as well. They must have really seen something in Martinez that made them want to. So, and I think they were probably happy to trade down to 3 because I don't think they foresaw anybody maybe making that pick as well. But, I mean, he seems like I hadn't seen him play. I have not watched that film, I'll admit. Looks like a very solid dude here in the interview screen. If you guys are seeing this as well on the broadcast, it seems like he'd be pretty good prop coming in here. So
can I just say,
go
emphasis ahead. on impressive. I mean, they were showing the highlight tape for the viewers, on this draft, and I mean, this guy can tackle. They're getting a freak athlete. So hey, we may have slept on this guy.
Yeah.
Again, my mock draft is broken. Man, we missed this guy.
Apparently, he's also USA eligible, even though he played for Canada's U20. So there's something interesting there about that for the Eagles, but the men's Eagles, of course. So wow.
That is an interesting sort of phenomenon as well. That U.S. eligibility that's changing a little bit at the World Rugby level as well. John, I mean, how do you think teams approach that in the draft, John? I mean, what are you hearing about how that impacts kind of player selection?
I think if guys there's a couple of guys who are approaching their kind of like their 5-year residency, right? Wherever they were and now potentially becoming a designated domestic player, which I think helps when it comes to the game day roster, right, and limits that teams allow there. That probably plays a little bit into it. I don't know about too much into this particular pick, but you got to think that does have some factor, right? If a guy is in his 4th year, he's got 1 more year or 6 or 8 more months, then you probably take a chance on him knowing that you can, within going into the next MLR season, he's going to be considered domestic player. So that probably does factor into it a little bit, I'd imagine.
I mean, do any of you think that it might be an issue if somebody is U.S. eligible and is really good that you might lose them for a chunk of the season if there's an international window? Do they factor that in for some of these guys, or do you think they're just looking to get the best talent in their building, regardless of that possibility? Josh, what are your thoughts on that?
I think you get the best talent in your building, regardless of that. I mean, you look at other sports, soccer being a prominent, option there. You want these people to go and play for their countries in any sort of international games. It's better for the game itself. So I don't think they're factoring that in. I think I think it's great to have talent that is being brought up and getting the call to go represent their country in these big international settings.
So the broadcast has taken a bit of a commercial break here. Again, we are still up 2-0 on them vis-a-vis commercial breaks here. We are true Ironmen of the sport. Let's reflect a little bit on these top 3 picks. We had chalk at number 1, where we all were super pumped and we thought we were the best draft experts in the entire country when everybody knew Sam Gala was going to Dallas. And then 2 absolute body blow shockers to follow that up here. Colby, what is your reaction to these first 3 picks, and how do you think it translates, or how do you think it better informs our idea of how difficult this draft process is to handicap for MLR teams and what MLR GMs are thinking?
Yeah, exactly what they're thinking, Zach. And we've talked about player selection. You brought up great points about Sebastiano Villani in terms of what he is to a coach, how he's coachable and whatnot. And so it's just a reminder, I think, that what these players do on the field or what these players do off the field and who they are off the field as people are just as important as what they do on the field. And I think that that's something across all sports that's a little underlooked, is the interviewing process and getting to know a player from the teams and how much that plays into the draft process. Something I've talked about before on our pod. And so I think that might be what we're seeing here with some of these surprising picks.
John, have you already packed it in since you're tied your record from last year's pick? All right. How do you think? I mean, just talk a little about also how you feel, about this being really a difficult process to handicap.
Yeah, I think just gives me more of an appreciation for what these MLR clubs are doing in terms of scouting, right? Like, they're looking for certain things. They know exactly what they're looking for, the type of player that they want in their locker room. So, an amateur like myself who's sitting there watching a couple highlight tapes thinking, oh, yeah, this guy's going to be a great fit on this team. It's pure conjecture on our part, and that's what makes it fun, though. That's what makes mock drafts so fun. And there are certain things that those GMs and those coaches are looking for that's going to fit for their system. And while it may be shocking to everyone else, I traded a couple of emails before the draft with a couple of GMs from some MLR clubs trying to get some inside stuff. I got nothing, but one GM told me, or one player director was like, yeah, there's so much that goes into it that the public doesn't know about in terms of what they're looking for, that quote unquote picks could be shocks, but for them it was the right choice at the right time. And we won't know until they put them on the field and run them out and see how they line up against the other 15. So, but hey, I'm still feeling good. I got 1 pick right so far. I've tied my record from last year, 1 more, and we're golden, baby.
There must be those that Canadian talent that Brian Ray was talking about when he talked about the loony picks that he saw in some mock drafts going around. He definitely, like as you mentioned, has his finger on the pulse there of the Canadian talent as well. Covers rugby really well for all of North America. We're getting we're back up. Pick it in. Sorry, I couldn't get your thoughts on that, but we will see what the commissioner says here for Utah. I don't know anymore. I'm really not sure the way we're going. But trade. Okay, our first trade.
Oof.
Wow, a trade is happening. Utah has traded the 4th overall pick to Rugby ATL, who have leaped up here to take Seth Purdy. Okay, so they took Seth Purdy here out of Cal. So another Cal guy going early. Josh, are we seeing a Cal revolution here now? And what did ATL see in Purdy that they wanted to jump all the way up here with this pick? We'll try to find out some details on the trade as well. But Josh, give me your thoughts.
I mean, it might be the commentator's curse that we might be dealing with. We were talking on the podcast and trying to say that, hey, if you go to Cal, you're never getting drafted. The fact that Seth Purdy is being picked here, not to mention the fact that Atlanta is trading up to get Seth Purdy, is telling me that there is a lot of talent on that Cal side. I mean, which is no surprise to anyone. I mean, Cal, again, one of the best teams in the country. We could end up seeing this be the Cal show. The only thing that brings up with that, though, is then what about Lindenwood? What about, Army? What about Life? What about all these other schools? But I again, I'm a little bit shocked, but that's the nature of the beast here. And I got plenty of more surprises I'm going to have to get used to for the rest of this draft.
And before we get into Purdy a little bit more, that's a great point you just brought up, Josh. This is I would say, precipitous fall for the Lindenwood program that I was convinced would have 3 or 4 guys gone already off the board. What are we thinking about Lindenwood these guys not kind of getting picked as early as we might have expected here? Anybody have any thoughts on this specifically? Josh, you want to lead us off with that? What are we thinking here as the commissioner's coming back out? But quickly, what are your thoughts on Lindenwood?
I think, again, we are going to see Lindenwood guys come off the board. They are here. They're committed. They're ready to play in the MLR. Maybe there's something clubs don't know, but I still think we got a lot of draft left, and I think we're going to see some guys come off the board pretty soon.
Speaking of one of those, Toronto, the Arrows have taken Owen Rutten out of the University of British Columbia. So a flanker. We were right on the position, I think, Josh. We said Louis Millet, but we wrong on the player. Another Canadian who we did not necessarily do our homework on, unfortunately, which we'll have to remedy this for next draft. Our blind spot on the Canadian players here. But Toronto, no surprise, obviously, again taking a player out of Canada. Any thoughts on Owen Rutten here and what he might bring to the Arrows? Are they missing that kind of talent in the back row? I know we talked about they like their scrappy back rowers and the Arrows. Colby, what do you think a pick like Rutten here brings for the Arrows?
Yeah, a player like this will definitely fill a hole for them that is much needed. I think they're a team that's still trying to get back to that nice form that they hit a couple of years ago throughout the mid part of the 2020 season or 2021 season. And this player seems like he's MLR ready, he's physical, has a great IQ. You see that nice interception on tape there. I think he'll fill a nice, much needed hole for them.
So do we think that...
And it's the second player taken out of the University of British Columbia.
Sleeping on that school.
Second tech colleagues.
Definitely a school we'll have to watch some tape on going forward. And we got NOLA back here on the clock with back-to-back picks here at 6 and 7. So their pick 6 is in. We'll react to that in real time as well. They are just going rapid fire. I think they were mad at us for talking, or me specifically, saying that they're taking too many breaks here. But NOLA, with the 6th pick, has taken Chase Jones. They've taken Chase Jones here out of St. Mary's, a lock. So a couple surprising picks here for NOLA. Not something we expected at all. We were looking for them to take a shot on a developmental player later in the draft, maybe on a Mike Weir or a fly half like that. They took it early with Villani at scrum half. And here they take a lock, Chase Jones out of St. Mary's. Josh, did you see anything from Jones this year for an up and down season for the Gales? Did you think they'd have a player taken here in the first round? And did you expect maybe it would be a lock like Jones?
I think if you're going to take any player from St. Mary's, you're going to be a happy camper. That school is a place that just breeds some of the most fascinating players, some of the most entertaining players, some of the best players to talk to. I mean, the leadership, the quality of development that they have at St. Mary's. I mean, MLR coaches have just got to love taking whoever they can from that program. Talk about this year, right? Get to the D1A national championship after finally being able to beat Cal. I think you take a look at this draft, you take a look at this squad that's coming and that's now draft eligible, and you say, hey, we want to get these guys in our building because they're leaders and they're future stars. So, again, another surprise, but Chase Jones, quality pick. I think NOLA's going to do great with him.
And fills a need for them. I think they had some issues with second row last year, having to ask Cam Dolan to step in a few times. You know, he loves his natural position more at 8. I think they'd love to be able to keep him out there as well, but due to injuries and other complications, NOLA having to fill that back row spot, that second row spot. Not sure if Jones is somebody who can step right in. But John, do you think this is a need pick here for NOLA? Would you have gone second row here? You have back-to-back picks in the first round. You've already taken a scrum half. Would lock have been your pick, or a lock would have been your pick?
I was thinking they were going to go in the forward pack. Again, staying on this theme, year of the prop. I didn't think it was going to be Chase Jones. I had him going in the second round. But, yeah, where's Lindenwood so far? That's my big question.
We'll have to talk. Maybe if this isn't Lindenwood, we have to have a serious discussion, guys, about this because it is a huge drop for them. I thought, again, my guy Gabe Kettering would have gone earlier. My guy – oh, wow, okay.
Trent Rogers.
Another prop here. Someone that I had mentioned specifically on the pod that I liked in the second round, probably going to DC because of that Kutztown DC connection. But Trent Rogers, the front rower out of Kutztown, incredibly physical prop, incredible athlete, another one of those really mobile big guys who you just are kind of, your jaw drops to the floor when you watch them handle the ball. I mean, you're seeing offloads here in the highlight screen. You're seeing him run around like he's a back, guys. So Trent Rogers to NOLA. Colby, what are your thoughts here on NOLA taking a big man and not being my man Gabe Kettering or the best athlete of all time, Brandon Carnes?
All I'm saying is, if I'm a NOLA Gold fan, I am super pumped for the next few years. You got a guy like Trent Rogers on your roster now, a guy with his athleticism. Chase Jones is also a promising player that seems like he can play in multiple positions with his versatility. I mean, this is super, super exciting times for NOLA Gold fans.
Yeah, NOLA has targeted front rowers, I think, in all of their drafts now. They're going to have an entire collegiate front row if they want. I think Brian Nault was an earlier pick of theirs, George Sharp at hooker, and now they have Trent Rogers can fill in there as well. John, what are your thoughts on Rogers here out of Kutztown and NOLA kind of going with the big man?
Yeah, you're the prop. I love this pick. I think it's a lot of fun. I had Rogers going in the first round, but I had him going to Atlanta, a couple of picks down. I think that's exciting. It's an exciting pick, and everyone saw the highlight. His tape. Like, the kid can move and big frame, and a lot of fun to watch. NOLA's building something there, right? Like, if you look over their last couple of drafts, they have not really missed. Four of their last five, I would say, are all, maybe three of the five are decent players, right? More than decent players, right? Brian Nault and Andrew Guerre. Hopefully he's coming back from his injury, and George Sharp, right? Those are three players that they didn't miss on. A couple that, are kind of out of MLR right now. So Ryan Fitzgerald down there, he knows what he's looking for. Great pick. Love it. You're the prop. Let's keep it going.
You're the prop. We should have pushed that hashtag more. I should have been more aggressive about you're the prop. But I will mention also, so our friend Brandon Shea from Rugby Pick'em asked the GM in Utah, Brandon Sparks, about how he would define a successful draft on Twitter. And I saw their conversation kind of going back and forth. And he referenced an NFL GM, Bill Polian, who said in his book, if you keep 33% of your draft in your building, that's an elite draft. Anything above that is incredibly elite. But a good draft would be 33% of your drafted players that stick around in your program. Even it's that hard of an exercise, and NOLA has eclipsed that mark. I think they've been very, very good at identifying domestic talent and developing domestic talent through the draft process. So I won't fault them for any of these picks. Josh, I think do you want to fault them? You seem like you want to fault them for this. I don't know. You have that look on your face.
I'm not going to fault them. I got to be honest. When we were in New Orleans for May Madness, we were trying to find places to film shows. We were trying to just kind of go around, and as we were sneaking into the press box, you could see, the NOLA Gold staff there just kind of scouting the guys, and they looked locked in. They looked like they were getting as much information as they needed, but they also didn't look surprised by some of the great performances that we saw at that tournament. And all that just tells me, again, like you said, John, they know how to draft. They are prepared, and they've got some good guys in the building. So for all three of their picks that they've taken in this first round, it's hard to not have the confidence that they picked up some quality athletes, and they picked them up in the right spot in this draft. It's only going to tell when we see them play in the MLR season. Are we going to see all of them hit the field? I don't know, but it's tough to doubt that NOLA had a good draft again for the third year.
So now that we're on a break here, Colby, what are your thoughts on this Lindenwood fall? I mean, for me, they didn't have as elite a season this year as maybe they're used to, as successful a season, but there's still some quality athletes that are still on the board. What do you attribute this to, not seeing a single Lindenwood player go after last year where a bunch of them flew like hotcakes off the board immediately? What are we seeing here happen to Lindenwood, do you think?
I just think it comes back to every year being different. John was mentioning teams need to fill their particular needs. It's not really about who's the best overall player available all the time. It's maybe about which player fits my culture, which player do I see growing the next 3 to 5 years with. And Marnus Spansberg is obviously still a player out there that we haven't heard that went to Lindenwood. Gabe Kettering is the player that we should expect to hear. Also, we've seen a scrum half go. We've seen a player from Kutztown go. Am I going to get a Kiko Kawi at 11 for Utah? Am I going to get that pick right? I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know. Let's see what Dallas does first here. Dallas with their second pick of the first round went chalk with Sam Gala. Do they go off the reservation here with their second pick in the first round? We got to get another one right somewhere, guys. We need another. We're not going to get it here. That's for sure. We have Ethan Hager going out of the University of Victoria. A run on Canadian players this year. They couldn't have picked a more difficult area for us to have foreseen than going full Canadian on us here. A surprising pick from Dallas for me, John. Did you have Hager on your board at all?
You can never go full Canadian. I was not prepared for Ethan Hager to go here. I'm looking over my, ranking. I had Ethan Hager as like the 6th or 7th best wing. And again, what is my ranking compared to others? But again, surprise that, and I said it earlier, right? Shortcomings on the research around Canadian prospects here. But given there are some really talented wingers out there who are domestic U.S., right, that I thought were going to go before a guy like Ethan win. So kudos, Ethan, for getting drafted. But, Brian Ray, who said that the mocks so far have been absolutely loony, can you say that this draft so far has been absolutely loony? I mean, loony only because it's going against everything that I mocked up. But what a pick there. I don't have any insight.
Yeah, it's hard for me to even criticize. I don't know if anybody feels different because I obviously don't know as much as these MLR GMs do. They've definitely done the research. I mean, I kind of want to, though, because you're absolutely right. There are a lot of really good American wings out there that I saw that are just dynamic athletes that I think we all loved. I mean, Jeff Matuku on the board, or we have Milan Van Wyk still out there, not listed at wing but could play wing. Are you guys kind of shocked by this, Colby, Josh? As we have Utah picking here, but you can kind of give me your answer first, real quick, Colby.
Yeah, John, you talked about him before a little bit. Clement Kaweko is another player out of Linwood that just a dynamic player that could be selected.
Look at that.
Colby, you called it.
Wow.
You did it, I think, man. They almost gave you what you wanted. You have the floor, Colby, because you are obviously you have tapped in here to this draft zeitgeist, the psyche here. Keko Akawe from Kutztown goes 9 to Utah. Colby, I cede the floor to you.
There you go. I'm not surprised. This is what I do. I'm a professional in my job, guys. I dress for the occasion and I make the right picks. This is a player that we got to meet at the CR7s. One of the most physical scrum halves I've ever seen. Great kid off the field. No surprise that he went in this first round. Checks all the boxes, I think, on and off the field. And Utah got a really good scrum half in this kid out of Kutztown.
Yeah, I thought Kawe I wrote in my notes, like an old school middle linebacker. I mean, he was erasing people. We know how physical Kutztown can be, and he was one of the most physical guys on the pitch for them. So, Josh, what are your thoughts here on another scrum half going and another scrum half out of Kutztown? Do you think Kawe ends up playing scrum half at Utah, or do they maybe move him around?
I mean, I sure hope so. But, look at that. I mean, we're not perfect, but again, in the podcast, talking about how we said if you were scrum half, you should not register for the draft. We might have been, again,
who said that?
Wrong.
Was that me? I don't remember.
I think that was
you,
Zach. But we might have been completely wrong on that one. Turns out next time, if you're in the draft, you should just say you're a scrum half to get 2 off the board before the 10th pick. Colby called this one. I mean, even his mock draft having him go to Utah, so. I guess do we give that to Colby? Do we make him does he get 2 picks right, even though it's not the right slot?
We'll have to go to the judges. We'll check, as Matt would say, with our interns, our production team.
It's 100% on point.
Staff. But we'll see, Colby. We'll let you know after the draft if we give you that one.
It makes sense. It's a pick that makes sense. It's a pick that makes sense because when you look at what Utah has done with Ryan Reese and his development over the past couple of years, they developed scrum halves well. So it's no surprise.
What do you guys think of George's walk compared to like Roger Goodell? Who's got the better walk up to the podium?
Killebrew for sure. Killebrew hands
100%,
down.
100%.
Killebrew, much more likable guy than Goodell, for like 1,000 times more likable. That's a strength for us. And Atlanta here, another Kutztown. Kutztown is the Lindenwood of 2022, guys. This is very impressive. I would not have picked Kutztown as my number 1 school for this year, but three players have gone. Matthew Gelhaus goes here to Rugby ATL. Somebody I think that we did have on our radar. John, were you high on Gelhaus here from Kutztown?
I did. I liked him. I had him going in the 2nd round, and I do think he was probably one of the tall guy, right? Like 6'5", maybe 6'6". I had him as maybe the fourth, rate him as the fourth best lock in the draft. But again, the big question here is what's going on with the Lindenwood guys? Like Matt's great, they're going to be a great lock, but what's going on with the Lindenwood guys?
Yeah, because Spangenberg could play lock, I think, out of Lindenwood. Another lock, Colin Gross from Army, who I thought might have gone earlier as well, who I thought we were sleeping on as well.
The Whiteside.
Josh, sorry, go ahead, John.
No, I was just throwing a name out. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, Josh, your thoughts on this Galehouse pick and the Lindenwood slide?
I mean, again, all the Cutstown guys that we got to meet in May Madness at NOLA, it was amazing to watch them play. I know that's sevens, but playing against them when I was at Michigan State as well, you could not find a more physical group. I mean, coached by the doc himself, they are MLR ready in the sense that their kind of dedication to their team, the professionalism, it sets them up really well. So it's not a surprise. Going on to the Lindenwood thing, though, I am surprised. I mean, another program, I got to meet some of the Lindenwood guys while we were covering Club National Sevens this last weekend with Next Level Rugby. You talk to them, and just the amount of work, the amount of structure that is in that program, you would think that it carries over so well into the MLR, and just the quality of athletes that they're able to bring from overseas. I mean, Gabe Kettering is about to turn into the Aaron Rodgers of this draft. He's going to be looking at every team and being like, you're going to regret passing up on me. Other guys that say, where's Koi Koi? Koi Koi is still, not off the draft. And you talk about one of the guys that we would say was probably one of the most marketable, best guys to talk about throughout the, CRAA season. What is it that's keeping teams from drafting him? I mean, he's ready to go. He's ready to commit day one to teams. So it's going to be interesting to see how we finish up this first round. But these second and third rounds, I'm hoping to see a turnaround and get some Lindenwood guys off the board.
I would be shocked if they don't go at some point in this draft, second or third round. I think you have to take a Lindenwood guy, even if you don't like him as much as maybe you like other players. But we're 3 picks away from the end of the draft here, about 13 minutes from the top of the hour at 8:00. They're probably gonna slow down a little bit here in the broadcast, just thinking production wise with only these 3 picks left. But I want to look ahead a little bit. If you guys have any more reaction thoughts, I'm happy to hear from any of you guys if you want to react to these last few picks. But I'd love to kind of look ahead at these last 3 and see what we're thinking going forward. So any final thoughts on the first part of the first round? No, doesn't sound like it. All right, so we can look ahead here at these last 3 final picks. We're gonna have Utah again, I believe, here at the 11th pick. We will have Seattle picking 12th and Rugby New York picking last at 13. Here, if you see the draft order up on your screen, 2 of those teams made it to the MLR Championship last year. The Shield, Rugby New York, obviously the winner there. What would your guys' draft strategy be for teams like that who are kind of complete, who have made it to the finals and are kind of looking to maybe add a couple pieces? John, we can start with you on this one. Where would you go? I'll say your mock you have, it may not be the most accurate at this point, but the mock you have going to these guys, you have Utah taking Lucas Black from Lindenwood. You have Mark Matuku, the flank guard of Notre Dame College. I think we all like going to Seattle. And then you have New York taking a shot on Mike Weir, who we all thought was the best fly half prospect in this draft at Dartmouth. So what do you think the strategy is here, John, for these last 3 teams?
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot already in these first 11 picks, 10 picks. Why not see a fly half in these next 3 picks, right? Could a guy like Mike Weir go because, Seattle and New York, they've got some depth there. Why not try and bring on a young domestic fly half talent and develop him? That could be an option. You got to think a Lindenwood guy is going to go in these next 3 picks in the first round. It's hard to believe there's not one Lindenwood player that's going to get drafted in the first round. So if I'm a betting man, and I am, I'm going to place my chips on a Lindenwood guy going. I think Gabe Kettering at this point, we talked about it, he's got to go. Maybe Lucas Black does go. And Mark Matuku, one phenomenal player, fun athlete, and just a great name to say as well. We haven't seen the Notre Dame College guy go yet. We'll see there. But again, I've been surprised so far by pretty much everything we've seen outside of the first pick that it's anyone's guess at this point, I feel like.
Yeah, the Matuku brothers blew people away at the rugby showcase. Mark and his brother Jeff Matuku, I think, especially. Josh, you have the man, the myth, the legend, Brandon Carnes going at this pick. You still could be right for Utah. Your number at number 11. And then you have Lewis Hollidge, the fly half out of Central Washington, going to Seattle, and Jack Manzo, the hooker from Cal, who would make 3 Cal players in the first round. How do you feel about your 3 picks? Do you think you're gonna nail all 3?
It's hard to say after my performance so far, but I'm confident. Brandon Carnes, I really struggle to see him slipping. I mean, after everything we've talked about already, for the last 2 picks, again, I really think for teams like Seattle and New York, it pays off to go local. We were talking about it earlier in the show, the marketing of that. Lewis Hollidge and Jack Manzo, I think it provides an impact. It provides that like sort of homegrown impact where they can kind of come back to places that they're familiar with, join these teams. They have those, they have families, everything. They're ready to go. So I like to say I'm solid with that. But the Matuku brothers, again, it would be interesting to see one of them come off the board. The only other thing I want to mention again is that I just want to make sure that we see more U.S.-based players come off the board. I mean, a lot of Canada coming off. I think the U.S. college game is ready. I guess we're about to see with Utah. Maybe it's going to be my boy, Brandon Carnes.
Maybe they'll take Kakoa Kawe again and make Colby double right here. If they could just take him twice. We'll get to your picks as well, Colby. Your last.
Here we go.
Yeah!
I'll give it. It's a prop. I get a half. Maybe I get a half right.
It's not just a prop, Josh. It is the prop in the
Look
in
at
the
this
draft. You see that photo
putting up.
of an absolute beast that Gabe Kettering is. You think he knew that photo was being taken, or you think that was like
he knew. He knew.
Total candid?
Nah, he posed. He was ready to go.
Yeah, you guys will just let me have a moment on Kettering here. I love this game. Our first Lindenwood player as well, by the way. So John, kudos to you on calling the Lindenwood shot possibly here. But just for me, one of the most pro-ready players, and I thought at the top of his position group. Although I did like Trent Rogers, and I guess I did not know as much about the Calixto, the Canadian prop as well. But Kettering, just as you can see in his highlight tape, he was not many props from the States highlight how they actually do in the scrummage. It's kind of a dark art. It's kind of something that not many guys are trained in through the college ranks. They just kind of outmuscle the opposition. They just it's just a big push. It's not necessarily technique. But Kettering demonstrates that he is solid with the technique, can definitely be coachable. So he's starting already at a higher level than some of the other guys you're bringing in, and is just a tank. Is always breaking the gain line on carries, is willing to do the dirty work in the rucks, make solid tackles. No shock to me that he was the first Lindenwood player gone. Shocking that it was so far down. But if I like that pick for Utah as well. I think they needed some juice up front. And Colby, this could be, I want to say your pick, Chandler Owens here, your shocker pick, the fly half out of Kansas, I believe. Maybe this is who goes to Seattle. I loved him watching his tape. You think he goes here?
Yeah, Seattle, they're a team that, they could use a guy like him who showed out in the combine. Chandler Owens did with that 80-meter crazy kick. I don't know if you guys saw that. He had like an 80-meter kick that landed inside the opponent's 5-meter line. But
he was very good.
It goes back to Josh's point. Yeah, guys that showed out at the combine, maybe he's a flyer that they take a chance on.
So it is a fly half that goes here to Seattle, not Chandler Owens, unfortunately, Colby, not Lewis Hollidge, Josh, unfortunately for you, but Shane Barry out of UCLA, who I think we all did like and has played, as you can see here on the screen, has some international experience as well, playing for the USA U23 team, I believe, or one of those squads, played sevens as well, a dominant athlete. Another fly half we saw at the board. UCLA had a very solid season this year, and I think Barry was a huge part of that. So, Josh, I'll let you kind of take the discussion here first on Barry and what he brings to the table, and what you think Seattle may have saw in a prospect like Barry.
UCLA is a program, again, quality program. We're talking about a young program. I mean, Shane Barry graduating, going up to the MLR now, but he's coming from a place that you talk about UCLA and the teams that they have to play throughout the year. You're playing Cal, you're playing St. Mary's, you're playing Arizona, who are all been recruiting like crazy. A team like Seattle, who again does not need to pick someone that needs to make an impact right away. They've been competing for MLR championships. It's a quality pick, a guy they could bring in, let him train. I think New York right now with their pick is going to do the same thing.
I will say they also misspelled Barry's name there, so we could. I would no, not judging, but it's an A and not an E. If you guys are playing at home, Doyle Hedgepath. Okay, there we go. A name that I had going my first round. used our graphic in his highlight video that we used in the show when we were talking about him. I don't know if you guys saw that on the highlight screen there.
I did.
Tape.
Go us. See, we're important.
Yeah, we matter out there on the rugby landscape, guys. We really do. But
this kid has some pretty
what a pick to
nice
round
footwork.
out that first round, guys. The year of the prop. It truly is the year of the prop. And there you see our that is made by us in our lab. We made that, cooked that up for our show. But Doyle Hedgepeth, another dynamic mover, another important piece to an offense, a component for an offense that could really add another level. And so, John, as you kind of survey this first round now, as we're at the end, we'll have plenty more thoughts, everybody, as well. Don't leave us. You can leave us on the live stream here, but follow us on the Twitter Spaces on Rugby Morning. The Twitter account will be live there, kind of chatting about our reactions to the first round and our thoughts on the second and third round picks as well. But your thoughts here on the final landscape of the first round, John, and how it kind of stacked up against what you thought would happen.
It's been wild. It's been absolutely loony, to quote someone who knows maybe far better than I do.
The word of the year for sure on this draft.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch that highlight tape, like, big kid, big frame, but can move, right? I think he played a little bit of center too, maybe in college, and they moved him over to prop because they saw what they could work with there. Kudos to the Queens. That's been a great program the last couple of years. A couple of guys who've been drafted by MLR, and yeah, I mean, you're the prop. I mean, Zach Lanning right now, you are just grinning ear to ear because I know that's your position. But yeah, what a wild first round.
I didn't get any picks right, but I got the position of the year right in some form. But Colby, give me your final thoughts here on this first round as well. What a fun, exciting, surprise-filled first round. Colby, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it exceeded all of our expectations, just for how great it turned out. We saw a lot of familiar names. We saw some names that we weren't able to cover as much, and so it was really cool seeing Sebastiano Villani go second overall. Like, none of us expected that to happen. Just really satisfied with this first round. I did think New York was going to go back at 13 with their last pick, being that they have a lot of talented guys in that back line that can sort of mold a young player into that system. But this kid's got some nice footwork, so I'm sure he's going to be a nice tool for them next season.
Yeah, nice addition to a championship-winning team. And Colby, you're absolutely right. We learned a lot from this draft as well, and room for us to grow as a program as we try and bring everybody the best information that we possibly can and highlight the players. Everybody, we want to talk about everybody who plays college rugby in the U.S. and get everybody's name on a broadcast because we love the sport. We love the people who play it. And so we will definitely do better next year as well, making sure we cover every school, Canadian, U.S., anywhere that you play rugby, we'll be on it. But Josh, give me your final thoughts here as well on this first round, this roller coaster ride that we've just been on. I'm sweating a little bit because
I know
that we just did. But yeah, tell me what your thoughts are here.
You're gonna throw a party for the year of the prop. We're gonna have to make T-shirts and all that. But
I'm gonna be insufferable, guys. I hope you understand.
I know.
I'm not gonna ever stop talking about
it. Yeah. I mentioned this a lot in the show that we've done throughout the year and everything. This draft alone kind of shows just we are so in the right direction with college rugby, right? The sport is growing. I know we didn't see a lot of Lindenwood guys, but we're seeing people from schools that, maybe we haven't been able to talk about a lot, but these MLR teams are watching. And the one thing I want to say about that, even though we haven't been able to cover them, is that no matter where you're going to school, you can make an impact at these schools and you can still have a path to the professional level. And it's showing right here. Exciting time. The MLR is proving to be an awesome pathway for people in college who are playing rugby to get up to the professional level. And I think this third draft may have had a lot of surprises. Maybe soon, fourth, fifth draft, we're going to be able to get our mock drafts perfectly right. We'll be like Mel Kiper, but it's until then, it's a great path we're going on. I'm super excited to watch. Really excited to see how these second and third rounds turn out.
Yeah, and I will say also another Brandon Sparks. He had a great day on Twitter today. He was just killing it all over the place. But he had an amazing thread about how if you're a college player and you're draft eligible and you don't hear your name called today in the first or second or third round, don't despair. You still have a shot at playing in the MLR. There have been a lot of great supplemental draft players who have made huge contributions to programs. Colby referenced the scrum half pair at Rugby New York earlier, Connor McManus and Connor Buckley from Iona. How could I forget? Who were both supplemental players, and they're starting now pretty much. Or McManus started a lot. They played a lot. Learned from a guy like Andy Ellis. So you could still make a difference on an MLR club. And if you don't make the MLR, there is an incredible club rugby program and club rugby scene throughout the United States and Canada, where you can contribute to a team and work on your game and just play the sport that we all love here. So yeah, do not despair if you don't hear your name called tonight. And we're sorry if we didn't know about you when your name was called tonight. So we're
gonna get better. We got a whole fall season coming up. We're gonna get this. We got this.
This is gonna be we're gonna spend a lot of time with you guys. Colby, go ahead.
As the great Bruce McLean of Iona University would say, keep the faith. Keep the faith, fellas out there grinding for that MLR dream. Keep the faith.
Iona, I'm still waiting for my gear.
You'll get your gear, Spartan. You'll get your gear.
Yeah. And John, we're gonna hop over to your Twitter Spaces shortly. I think we can ham it up a little bit here. I don't think we have to end at some point. We don't have our bedtime at any point soon, but we will hop over to your Twitter Spaces. Anything you want to say before we head over there, and what you're expecting to hear on that part of the broadcast?
Yeah, I think one, there's just a number of quality players that are still available in the second and third round. That clubs are going to get some really good players here, so I'm excited to see what's going to happen with these next 26 picks or so. But yeah, join us in a few minutes over on Twitter at Rugby Morning, Twitter Spaces. We'll host an informal thing. Zach, I might have to kick it back to you on the hosting duty since you did such a good job, and also my kids are going crazy in the background here real soon. So I'm trying to, still keep this household together a little bit. But yeah, I'm excited to see what these next 2 rounds are going to bring, because there's a ton of good players still available.
Yeah, I think I hope, people talk a lot about, I'm happy to take those duties, John, if you need it, I take that off your shoulders. But the people talk about whether or not there's enough college talent out there to fill a draft like this. And I say absolutely yes. We've seen that tonight, 100% yes. There even more rounds, more teams. Give me another franchise or two, throw them in there. Give me another 2 or 3 rounds. I think there are plenty of college talent. You've seen it also, guys drafted in the 3rd round that have surprised. Zach Bastris, New England Free Jacks took him in the 3rd round, and he's been a star for them. So you've seen guys go late who have made an impact, and I think there's plenty of college talent out there. So I think with that, though, guys, we will sign off on our live stream here on YouTube and Twitter on Rugby Wrap Up. Thank you guys all for watching. Make sure you follow us on our podcast, College Rugby Wrap Up Podcast. It comes out on the Rugby Wrap Up feed. Follow us on Twitter at CRW or College Rugby. I'll find it. I'll get it. We just made it. We're new to this. So, but follow Rugby Wrap Up at Rugby Morning. Make sure you consume the newsletter. Make sure you consume all of our content. We are going to be all over the college space going forward, and MLR. We're going to start doing international. We're going to do sevens. You're not going to be able to escape us going forward. So stay tuned. Follow us here for the rest of the night as well, guys. I love it, baby. This is why we do this, man.
You're the prop. You're the prop, Zach.
You're the prop. Year of the prop.
Hashtag get your merch. We're dropping a line. Come on now. We got to monetize that.
We'll work on that. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I hope you enjoy your night. Stick with us.